This is Between the Uprights.
Football is life. The rest is just details.
Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
Welcome into Between the Uprights. I'm Joe. That's Chris. Matt couldn't be here today. But you know what? I want to give a big shout out to Chris for making it back. She's been dealing with an illness. She's back. She's ready to get back to talking football. We're excited to have her back on the episodes. Really, really excited. I know Matt wanted to be here for her first one back. Unfortunately, he's dealing with some personal stuff, moving and all that things. We know how that goes. But I want to give a big welcome back to Chris. And before we get into all that great football action here at Between the Uprights, you come here for 24/7, 365. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean a great deal to us here Between the Uprights. We're still getting this thing spun up. We really love to have your feedback in the comments as well. So hop in those comments now. We've had a few conversations on Between the Uprights about the Kansas City Chiefs. Their offense hasn't looked quite right. Is the defense good enough without some of the main names we've seen over the years playing back there? You know, Jarius Sneed's gone. Are they going to be able to hold on? And, yet here they are, 9-0, halfway, over halfway through the year. Absolutely still winners, absolutely looking like the same dominant team, even if there are a little bit of, things that seem to be just a little off with them. Patrick Mahomes not putting up the numbers we're used to seeing, things like that. But there is some things for concern here. They've only won 8 of their 9 games by 1 possession or, fewer than 7 points. Only game that doesn't qualify for that is where they beat the 49ers by 10. Figure that one out, right? Like, who knows? But that got us asking. Chris brought this up. This is her first topic. She picked this one. That's why we're doing this one right now, because I hadn't thought about it. But can the Chiefs become the 3rd team in NFL history to go undefeated on their way to the playoffs, win the regular season, right? Like, just win out. So we started looking at the schedule. And Chris, I'm going to go ahead and go first on this one. I have some things I want to talk about. I'm excited about. I got myself hyped up for this. I really did. Their schedule realistically only has 3 teams, 3, maybe 4 games on it left where I'm actually concerned about the Chiefs not winning. They play 5 of their next 8 on the road, including 2 back-to-backs, both this week and the following week against the Bills and the Panthers, and then at the end of the year against the Steelers and the Broncos, who they just struggled with and had to have a last-second field goal block to win a game, right? Like, otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about this. That's how they've been winning. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? Like, sometimes luck is on your side. Sometimes you just get that perfect jump on a the whole stars align for you. I would call that luck. I think it's lucky. Now, you had brought this up. When do we think they could lose? When do we see them having that first L? And at first I was thinking, hell, it could be this Sunday. It really could be this Sunday. I mean, I thought the Bills were going to be very, they're looking good, but they've had the Bills have some of the similar questions the Chiefs have had. They're not looking quite right. The defense hasn't looked as good. The offense hasn't looked as crisp. How are they going to adapt without having, Stephon Diggs there? Those sorts of questions have followed the Bills all year, yet they find themselves at the top of an AFC East that isn't nearly as competitive as people thought it would be. They're kind of, having some problems here and there. I don't know if the Bills are going to be able to upset the Chiefs, even if though it is a home game for them. Isaiah Pacheco is practicing. He could play this Sunday. I think that's a big, big tracker for a lot of people to find out what's his snap count going to look like. He's a piece to that offense that they desperately need back. I think they've been waiting to get healthy on that side of the ball for a hot minute. So I'm not penciling the Bills, but I will say this. They are about to play 3 games in 12 days. They're going to play, they play the Bills this Sunday. Then they're going to, and then, 7 days after that, they play the Panthers. 5 days after that, they're against the Raiders. If that was against any other 3 combination of teams, I would be concerned with that. I don't see the Raiders or the Panthers do anything, although the Panthers have won 2 games, against the Giants. I guess you could, a game against the Giants is, sure, whatever. The Chargers are the first game after the Bills that I feel concerned about on this schedule. I feel that the Chargers defense, which is allowing one of the fewest points in the league, if you go look at PFF right now and you look at defensive rating, the Chargers are the 7th best defense. They're actually defensive rating is tied with the Chiefs for 7th right now, but they've allowed significantly fewer points. They've only allowed 118 points all year, and I think that is the fewest next to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 146. So they've allowed 28 fewer points over the course of the season than any other team in the league. So that team is playing stingy defense, all those things like that, but they have a similar issue with a lot of other teams. They tackle poorly. Their PFF has them rated as one of the worst tackling teams. I think they're rated 8th overall worst tackling teams in the NFL. So that defense is not allowing a lot of points, but they're not tackling well. Can they upset in interdivision against the Kansas City Chiefs? It is going to be in Kansas City. It is going to be in December. How is all that going to work out? Who knows? But that is the next game after the Bills that I'm interested in. Now, a lot of people here are probably going to assume that I'm going to say the Houston Texans. I don't think the Texans have a chance in hell in actually beating the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been playing like shit. I don't think that's another team. You want to talk about defense on that one? The defense per PFF, they're, like I was saying, the Chargers are the 8th worst tackling team. Guess where the Houston Texans are? 9th. All right, they're the 9th worst tackling team. And the worst part is they're also not top 10 in anything else. And they're not top 10 in defensive rating, not top 10 in offensive rating. So the Texans, who we thought were going to get Stephon Diggs and be a force in the AFC, have not looked right, have not looked, nearly the offensive power we thought they would be. So I'm not concerned about the Texans, but I am concerned about their last 2 games of the year, especially if playoff positioning is on the line for these teams. And that is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos will for sure be playing for a playoff spot. I feel that they are going to be a wild card team in the AFC, especially a weak AFC when it comes to non-division winners. I think we've seen just about every team. If you were to look at the current standings, I'm pretty sure the Broncos are a playoff spot right now. They're going to be in that conversation. They have looked pretty good with Bo Nix, and you just saw them almost beat you, barring a blocked field goal, right, at the end of regulation. So the Steelers absolutely have a defense. They're tackling well. They have a top 10. They have a top 3 defense according to PFF on defensive rating. The Broncos, who you almost just lost to at home, you're going to go to Denver. This is a very tough road trip, and I could see, especially if Kansas City has home field locked up, the 1 seed locked up, they might rest their starters here. And if that's the case, and the Broncos have something to play for, the Broncos will beat them. So I think a lot of things are coming to play, but honestly, I don't think the Bills do it. I think it's going to come down to the final 2 games of the year at Pittsburgh, at Denver. That is where I'm penciling in the L right now. I don't think Cleveland's going to have anything for them. The Panthers and the Raiders don't scare me. The Texans, we've already talked about them. It's going to be either the Steelers or the Broncos right now, especially if the Steelers are healthy and Russell Wilson keeps playing like 2012 Russell, 2013, 2014 Russell Wilson throwing rainbows out there. I think that's where it's going to be at. And, like I said, if they have the 1 seed locked up, home field's locked up, there's nothing really to play for at that time. I mean, sure, the history books, but they're looking to make a different type of history. Now, don't get me wrong. Going undefeated and doing a 3-peat, I'd lose my mind. That is the pinnacle of historic, right? That's legendary, right? That's never ever probably going to be done again, right? We've only ever seen one team go undefeated and win a Super Bowl. As much as it pains me to say that out loud, but yeah, I'm penciling in week 17, week 18, those 2 road games to end the year. That's where I have them losing their first game. I think that's where it's going to happen. Now, there is some time between there, right? They play the Steelers on the 25th, 10, then they're going to get, I forget how many days it is between, the 25th. Let me check real quick. They play the 25th, and then they don't play, which is a Wednesday of all things, weird. And then they don't play till the 5th of January, which is 2 Sundays from there. So they're going to get a decent gap between there to decide if they want to, what they want to do there. So, but, between the Texans and then the Steelers, where they're home for the Texans and the Steelers, it's 4 days. They play Sunday against Texans at 1 p.m., right? Or a Saturday, on the 21st. Yeah. And then they go 4 days later, they're in Pittsburgh.
On a Wednesday.
Yeah. On Christmas. on fucking Christmas.
All right, Merry Christmas.
Kansas City, you're getting the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the shittiest gift you can ever ask for as a football team, to get to face the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day.
Yeah, absolutely. With the win, everything.
Absolutely. So that's what I think is going to happen. Are you agreeing with me on this one? You think that's where it's at?
I think honestly, for the most part, I'm pretty much in agreement. I was kind of dead set on probably the Buffalo Bills. I had a lot of hope until you told me that their running back was coming back. That's kind of what changed for me, because I feel like you said, they're both kind of in that same, like, they're not really as potent as they were on both sides of the ball as they were at this point last year. So you see a lot of differences between both, and I think a lot of the offseason had to do with that, especially with the Buffalo Bills, simply because they're the that side of the ball, as far as their defense, has changed a lot. So it's not as frightening for most. I think most players coming in, I don't think it's as frightening as far as their defense as maybe it was last year for a lot of teams, where you knew, like, when you went in, you had to be A1 on every regard, and you can't give up the ball at any point or you're done, essentially. And then you're also going along with Buffalo. They have a lot of wide receivers that are getting hurt. There's a lot of inconsistency there. So, like, who is going to be that guy for them that's going to kind of pull things back to where it was last year? Like, there's not very many, and then their rookie isn't even playing. They've already ruled him out, so he's not playing at all. So it's like, okay, well, who's going to have that point? And they don't really have anybody right now, if you think about it, as far as like who their wide receiver is going to be. Can anybody tell me who their wide receiver one is right now with a drop of a hat? Nobody, because there's no consistency there yet. They have some great tight ends, but again, there's some issues there as far as like them just kind of connecting. You don't see a lot of the connection there. And then they're the guy that's actually running the damn ball, you don't see a ton from him either. So it's like, where is all of this offense coming from outside of just your quarterback? You're not getting a lot. So I wanted them to be the ones to take them out. I really did. I really don't want to see, for my own personal reasons, why I don't want to see the Kansas City go through and win every game remaining on their schedule. Would drive me absolutely nuts, and more so because of exactly what you said. They really haven't won many of these games in a crazy fashion. Like, there hasn't been any just dominancy this entire season at all. So when you're starting, especially with the one this past weekend was insane. Like, if it wasn't for that one item, that one time that the kick didn't go through, if it was that one time, it would have been done. Like I said, this wouldn't even be a conversation anymore. It's like, okay, it makes sense. Move on, because they have struggled through a lot of these games. They've struggled. Even their tight ends, Mr. wall-to-wall tight end here, he hasn't really done much. He maybe had one or two really, really good weekends, but other than that, you don't see a lot from Travis right now. As far as him just kind of taking over games, and between him taking over the game, and then you're looking at the wide receivers, you don't really have a significant one right now that's just like, okay, that's somebody you have two guys on all the time. You don't see that very much. So you would expect them to have probably lost one or two games by now easily, because some of these teams that they've already played with, they're not that great, and they were still struggling with them. Like, even with their second game was against the correct me if I'm wrong, the Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati they weren't ready yet, right? They're still trying to figure things out.
Some could say they're still trying to figure things out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you won by one on a team that was already still trying to figure things out. Same thing with Atlanta. Atlanta was trying to kind of figure things out, and right, they're coming, they're on their way, right? But they're only in the third game, right? So they were along their way, and they still didn't win by a lot.
5 points.
So you would almost expect them already to have lost a couple games. How they lost to San Francisco, I don't know. I don't know how that worked at all. Lucky for them.
They beat, like I said, San Francisco, they beat by 10. The Saints, they beat by 13. And the Saints have been losing every game since the first 2 weeks when they dropped 90. So, yeah,
right.
It's very interesting. And you're right about the Bills and the Chiefs comparison. I don't see – they're very similar in how they look right now. I mean, if you look at them for PFF, you look at, I think, points against, they're very close. They're very similar. They're both top 10 points against. The defenses aren't terrible. The defensive ratings for both of them, I mean – Buffalo's a little lower. but I mean, the offensive ratings, the kicker here, where Buffalo's ranked 13th and Kansas City's ranked 8th. You don't expect these are top 5 offenses and top 5 defenses the last 2 to 3 years. And you were talking about Travis Kelce. I pulled up the PFF numbers on Travis Kelce right now. He's the most targeted tight end in the NFL, which we expect.
Yeah.
But every other number is down. He's the 4th tight end in yards. I don't even think he's top. Yeah, he's not even top 10 in touchdowns. I think like he's somewhere around 12th, which is unheard of for Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
yards
he's
per
definitely
reception.
not dominant this year at all.
Yeah, it's insane to see how sort of even with the target share that we're expecting for Travis Kelce, he's kind of leaned away from that. So yeah, I don't know. I would like to say the Bills can do it, but I think we're both in agreement that
no, I wanted to. I do, but I don't think that's happening. So honestly, like I said, I'm definitely agree with you. I would say if anybody has the absolute like no holds bar, like if I had to call one person and say like this is a team that's going to beat them this year, more than likely it's probably going to be the what's this, their 17th game.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
The
Steelers.
Wednesday, Pittsburgh. Yeah. So that would probably be my guess. Obviously, short time to get down there. It's a Wednesday. It's random. I live in
Christmas.
Pittsburgh.
Who's really going to play?
Yeah, and the type of stuff you're coming out here, and the way the fans and stuff are. So if there is absolutely a great chance that they're going to lose, that's probably going to be where it is. I don't know, but you never know. Especially when you start talking about like playing against teams that you're in the same division with, those can be dicey to begin with. So you never know. One of them might come out and take them out, and nobody would have expected.
Right? I mean, you never know. And hey, we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Can the Chiefs join the Dolphins and the Patriots and go undefeated in a regular season on their way to a playoff berth, which they hope ends in a three-peat for a Super Bowl?
Ugh.
Only time will tell.
We'll see. I really hope not.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.